For long-time viewers of my channel, you'll no doubt be aware of my series, the N64 Japanese Eye. I take a look at the Japanese exclusive titles on the N64 and try to see how well they play for Western gamers. Big Mountain 2000 very easily could have been a game featured in that series. You see, back in 1998, Snow Speeder was released in Japan to cash in on the ever popular snow-based racing games. The PlayStation had cool borders, to which Nintendo replied with a far superior 1080 snowboarding. Developer Imagineer Games threw their hand into the mix with an arcade style of snow racing, which was published by South Peak Games. Fast forward 2 years later, and seemingly from nowhere the game was rebranded Big Mountain 2000, an exact port of the Japanese exclusive title, this time heading for a North American release. This was not only a strange decision as the game was already 2 years old, but it was also missing out on the European release altogether. Even more surprising was that this was later in the N64's life, and releasing an already 2-year-old game so close to the end of the console seemed a bizarre decision. But let's not digress, as today we're taking a look at Big Mountain 2000, which was average at best when it was released first time around in Japan. So let's see if time has been kind on this action-packed game. The main selling point of Big Mountain 2000 was the fact that you could choose to race on either a snowboard or skis. By this time, I had already had my fix of snowboarding from the Sublime 1080, so the real appeal was to be able to race on skis. Sadly, when playing the game you'll soon realise there's actually very little difference in how the game handles regardless of which format you choose. There are 3 game modes which consist of Championship, Time Attack and a 2-player battle. The majority of your time will be spent in the Championship mode where there are just 3 courses to race down. The lack of tracks is disappointing, however there is at least some depth to this mode. You can choose one of 6 racers and have the option of customising your gear, clothing and equipment, and there are some well-known brands included. Taking to the mountain you have a choice of 3 race types. There's a standard free ride where you simply need to make it down the mountain as quickly as possible. Then there's a Slalom mode, which is a staple of most snow games where you weave in and out of gates along the course. Giant Slalom is simply a more intense version of Slalom, with more gates to tackle and with them being placed in harder to reach positions. The controls are surprisingly good. With rumble pack support you do feel like you're racing down a mountain. However, the frame rate is very low, and this instantly takes away a sense of speed while playing. Also detracting from the game is the AI, which I must say is awful. The opponents seem more interested in smashing into you rather than racing down the mountain, and you'll often get a cheap hit by an opponent right before the finish line and it can be infuriating. While racing, you also have a stamina meter to contend with. If this runs out, you'll instantly slow down almost to a halt, and the same is true if you race too fast and don't quite have the stats to stay on your feet. Speaking of stats, as you complete courses and win races, you're able to enhance your character's statistics, but this takes hours to unlock, even the smallest of improvements, so only the most dedicated gamers will ever get to feel a fully maxed out character plays like. You can also gain points by doing tricks, however from my experience doing them slows you down too much while racing, so the focus should always be on winning the race. Graphically the game is also quite poor. Considering the lack of courses, it makes you wonder why they aren't more detailed. There are trees and so on lining the courses, as well as the occasional cave with some nice lighting effects. However, everything seems blocky and jagged. This is particularly unusual, as the N64 is known for its blurrier look, and for a snow-based game, this is one time when this could have been a strength for the visuals. It's also worth noting that this game could have taken advantage of the expansion pack, and yet it chose not to. It would have been a great improvement not only for the visuals, but for the low frame rate. For a racing game, I always think the expansion pack should be used to increase the frame rate and to add a sense of speed, but it seemed that the developers were even too lazy to implement this port to North America. The final nail in the coffin comes from the sound department. The game boasts it has 15 background music tracks, however anyone who plays the game more than 5 minutes will quickly realise that not only is the music very low quality MIDI tracks, but there is nothing more than 15 to 30 second loops of the same track. When playing the Championship, you need to race the same course multiple times, with different equipment and in different events, so the best way to play this is with the sound turned off in my opinion. Big Mountain 2000 was already out of date when it was released in 1998, and by the year 2000 when the game came out in North America, it was way outdated in every single aspect of the game. It's almost an insult that with 2 years to bring the game over from Japan, and in that time even minor work on the game could have helped it turn into at least a solid, if limited game. Sadly, Big Mountain 2000 is not a game I'd recommend even for a huge racer fan. The game is clunky, has far too few courses, and the frame rate takes away any exhilaration that you may have felt in the game. But what do you make of Big Mountain 2000? Did you pick it up back in the day hoping for a 1080 snowboarding beta, or did you catch the awful reviews of this game early on? Perhaps you rented it and quickly realised this was not a game to drop a full retail price on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time.